What's up, guys? This is Jeff here. Today is Wednesday, January the 8th. I hope everyone is having a great evening right now. Well, I guess today is another really bumpy day, right? Even though we see at the end of the day, Dow and SPY 500, both of them, they are actually in the green zone. But, if you really follow the three major indexes during the day, actually for most of the time, the indexes were actually in the red zone, especially before 2 o'clock Eastern, right? 2 o'clock Eastern time, the meeting minutes for last time FOMC was released. Because of the actually fear of seeing even more aggressive, even more like tighter monetary policy prediction from the meeting minutes for most of the day before 2 o'clock Eastern, it was actually in the red zone. Both indexes and stock prices were down. But after we say kind of neutral or normal, right, not more aggressive than what we already learned from last time Federal Reserve meeting, kind of the indexes were kind of stabilized, right? As a result of it, both Dow and SPY 500 were up and eventually got into the green zone, which means a little higher than the previous trading day. When actually Nasdaq was a little down, but compared to most of the time during the day, I guess it's still a very, very positive result, very acceptable result at the end of the day. While talking about what had happened during the day, of course, the meeting minutes at 2 o'clock is kind of the milestone. But also I want to mention the ADP report released before the trading day, right? It was roughly around 8:30 Eastern in the morning. Normally it's 1 hour prior to the market opens. So today's ADP was kind of good, right? It was actually lower than the real number from November, and also actually was lower than what market expected. And because of that, ADP really tells people how many increased payroll, how many additional payroll that we have seen from last month. And that means the more the number of the ADP report, the more employments, the more increased new payroll had happened in the past month, which means the labor market is really strong. But now for this month, for the month of December last year, the real number is actually less than what was expected. And that means, the labor market was not as strong as the market predicted. And what that means converted to monetary policy, because the labor market was not as strong as what people thought before, then it actually eased a little bit the pressure of, the market right now, who is having a strong concern of the very tight monetary policy from Federal Reserve in 2025. So ADP report didn't really jeopardize any momentum of the market, mainly because the fear of the meeting minutes. Then we had a kind of a bumpy first half of the trading day, and then after 2 o'clock, the last 2 hours was quite smooth, I would say that. So this is basically what had happened for the day. I know today was not a really good trading day for most of us, actually including myself. My account was also hurt by a couple of stocks. I will talk about that shortly. But overall, I think, we have passed a couple of tough days. Tomorrow is gonna be a market close day. Do not really think about more of stocks for tomorrow, because it's kind of the memorial ceremony thing for ex-president Jimmy Carter. So tomorrow, no market. Next time we will see each other actually at Friday, and hopefully, as I as I always said in my live broadcasting show during the trading hours, and always welcome a very, very happy Friday. So hopefully, by removing some of the concerns from the current market right now, towards to the, kind of tighter or tightest monetary policy, some of the investors are expecting. By removing those concerns, hopefully, we can have a real happy Friday when the market reopens, right? When we see tighter and tightest, Federal Reserve has already changed their prediction of 2025 from 4 times rate cuts to 2. The reasons why people, like in the first half trading day today, people were concerned or also feared was actually people feared to see, if there's more aggressive, like even tighter narrative will be shown in the meeting minutes, saying like, if, the new elected President Trump, if he launches, really tight policy on the tariff, really tough kind of, country versus country situation on the international trade, and then as a result of it, the inflation goes up quickly at the beginning of 2025, the Fed may consider only reduce one time, cut the rate for one time in this year, or even no cut. So people were really fearing about this kind of narrative eventually showed up on the meeting minutes, which is not the case. So that's really good sign, right? Talking about people's concern or investors' concern, you may have been aware, actually early of the day, Bank of America, as one of the major, let's say, the investment institutes on Wall Street, Bank of America issued kind of the predictions, right? Issued kind of new way of thinking where the monetary policy will go in 2025. And in that article, BOC actually saying that it might be no rate cuts. And that is the terrible thing. That is the really horrifying factor that the people and the market don't want to see. So we are able to get rid of this concern to some extent today. Hopefully Friday can be good, right? And then let's jump right into my account. I know people are quite looking forward to that. I did not have a very good trading day for today. Today we actually lost more than 2,300. And I think this performance was mainly affected by a couple of individual stocks, which I will talk about that later. In terms of percentage, it's a little over than 1.5%, right? And as you can see, we are only $200 above the starting point, the $150,000. But that's okay, From day one we were down and then up quickly. So, if you compare the performance of my account to the real fluctuation we are kind of experiencing right now from the beginning of this year, I guess they correlate pretty well, right? They are synchronized. So from that sense, I'm not really concerned about my account performance. And especially, I will talk about that. So if you look at the big contributors to today's loss, Micron, of course, as the largest holding in my account, from the absolute value perspective, it contributed more than 500 loss for today. Micron, yesterday, I actually talked about that. I especially talked about, the trend we had yesterday, and showing the indications or signaling today it might be a tough day for Micron, because yesterday it went actually from really high, really positive, all the way down to almost the lowest point of the day. So given the trend that Micron has yesterday, it's not really hard to understand today. Would be a really difficult day for Micron still keep its increased momentum going up, right? But overall, if you look at Micron's performance today, I think, even though we lose a little more than 2%, around 2.5%, but I think it's okay. We normally call the day like this is we actually gave the market to really digest the good news of Micron, right? And give the investors enough time, enough space, enough room to make their own decisions in terms of holding it or selling it. And then as a result of, going up quickly in the past couple of days, some of the investors decided to take the advantage of the high up at the beginning of the day, right? They took the advantage of like up a little more than 1% and then started to sell Micron's shares during the day. So it gives additional pressure for the price of this company. But even with this kind of the consideration or with this kind of selling pressure, the price actually for Micron today, I would say, was quite stable, right? Even though it's down a little over 2%, but you can see actually we reached a negative 2% really like in the first 30 minutes. And then it just went up and down, basically showing we had some buyers and also some sellers. And with the combination of both sides, eventually we had a relatively solid, stable day with marginal loss, given actually in the previous trading sessions, Micron's price were up so much. So that's totally understandable and to me is acceptable. For me, the next trading plan for Micron, if we do see some continuation loss, continuation downside happens in future, I wouldn't really mind buying more if it goes down to, for example, below 95 US dollars. I really do not mind buying more and getting more stakes of this company, holding it for a little longer period, maybe in a couple of months, maybe even longer than that. Once Micron releases really eye-opening earnings from maybe the second quarter of this year or the third quarter of this year, its price may, will eventually go up, right? Actually, one news behind Micron today is actually Micron invested around 7 billion US dollars in Singapore, continuously, increase its R&D capability, right? Singapore is a place that's full of the talents, a lot of international talents would go there and settle themselves in the country and started to work in the high-end industry or high-tech industry. So overall, I really do not have any concerns about this company. And if we go back to my account, another big contributors in terms of number of money we lost today is Celios. We cannot really look at Celios from one independent perspective. Overall, today is kind of the returning day for all of these kind of lower price stocks, losing their momentum, losing their value, giving money back to the markets, right? Not only about SIDEO, but if you look at about some lower value or lower price stocks, for example, artificial intelligence industry, right? They all lose around like 15%, 18%. For some of the quantum computing concept stocks, they actually lost more than 40% because of Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, said, okay, for those faster growing companies, people need to be realistic. People need to be able to understand we may have the technology available really deliver some meaningful products to our real life in the next 15 years, 20 years, or maybe all the way to 30 years. So it gives people like less hope about those faster growing industry in future. So as a result of that, right, all those quickly go up previously, like let's say faster growing stocks, faster growing companies, they lost their momentum, they lost their price of their stock shares significantly for today. So I won't really say Celios as an individual company concern me so much, but I would say this is basically when the stock goes so quickly, a lot of people want to materialize their benefits, and it's also affected by some kind of really valuation given by the famous people in the high-tech industry, right? We talked about, NVIDIA lost nearly 7% yesterday. Overall, if we look at ASML or AMD or some other cheap semiconductor companies' price, they continue what they did yesterday, right? AMD in particular, more than 4% downside for today, almost gave up all of the price increase in the past couple of days. So I would say it's gonna be a bumpy journey for a lot of tech companies, right? And specifically talking about indexes, Nasdaq and Russell will be the one affected more recently than regular SPY 500 and Dow. Reasons being like if you really look at the yield of the debts, because of again the fear of facing even tighter or like maybe the taxes in terms of zero cut during the year, actually the yield is going up quickly so much in the past months, right? And there's a clear correlation between the yield of the debts versus the price of individual stocks as well as the index shares. Especially when the yield goes up so quickly, the tech company takes a lot of the pressure from the market. So right now, I guess all of the economic information, economic data will be released either this Friday from labor markets or next week for CPIs or core CPIs. They will be super important for the investors to make a decision on what's the next step for the market, right? And of course, January the 20th is the time for Trump eventually steps into the White House, and that will give people more hope or more speculations or predictions on what type of the economy policy Trump and his administration will launch. So those things are the real key factors for the market, right? Let's kind of aware what is going on and acknowledge there is a little bigger than usual swings, ups and downs, but then the real key stuff that we need to pay close attention is economic data as well as the economy policies. So we are gonna continue to talk about those things in my program, in my video, right? So if you really want to have a very close follow-up on what is the market going on, what is exactly happening right now or being expected to happen, please subscribe and leave your comments, leave your recommendations or ideas below this video, and that would be super helpful. All right, going back to my account, I did not have any trading activity for the day, and we just up a little bit over 150. Hopefully, this situation could be changed by this Friday. And I will be very much looking forward to review again at the end of the week using the language of Chinese for all my Chinese audiences to summarize the performance of my account for the entire week as well. Okay, without more, I'll be seeing you guys this Friday. Thank you for watching.